You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Legal Connection, Legal Talk Radio with Toni and Cheryl. And we are here today. Toni has got her 4th of July garb on.
This is my everyday wear.
Oh, yeah. This is what she looks like all the time. So those of you watching us on Facebook Live or YouTube can see how gorgeous Toni looks in her sexy red, white, and blue wig and her Uncle Sam.
Not a wig.
Oh, it's not. Toni, that better be a wig. And her Uncle Sam jacket. Well, we're excited about the 4th of July here. So Toni even brought us some hats, but I can't get them on my over my bunny ears.
Did you do our call?
Our what call?
Yeah, like our did I miss our intro? For the Legal Connection show, you can find us at 104.5, 106.1.
Well, they just said that right as we came on, so I just introduced us.
Okay.
Well,
it's my red, white, blue hair.
I think it is. It's gone to your brain. No, I kind of just rolled into the Legal Connection. We're here and excited. But 4th of July is tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Do you have any 4th of July jokes for us, Toni?
I don't, but I'm going to ask our station manager, Ethan, some 4th of July trivia. We'll see if some of our listeners also know the answers.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Station manager, Ethan, that does not have your
Yes, I am.
He's
Uncle
ready.
Sam hat on.
I can't fit it. I have to wear headphones.
Put it on top. Just to appease me once. Just kind of place it on top.
I'll appease you just once. Hang
Just
on.
once,
I'll disappear for a second.
Hold on.
Okay.
Well, it is a cute hat.
So while he's listening, so I know he can hear us in here. Let's see. I won't.
There he is. Look, Toni. Look.
I
Happy
love
now?
it.
You
Look just like Uncle Sam.
Yeah,
But I can't put my headphones on, so I
No,
can't monitor
too
sound.
bad.
So
All right, fine. You don't have
and
to.
it's squishing my head. I have a big head, so this
Oh.
thing is kind of like squishing it.
All
so.
right. You
I'll
don't
put
have to
my
wear it.
regular hat back on.
Thank you for appeasing me. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay. So what we were discussing earlier, and because we all know the answer because I looked it up, is but I'm going to hand it off to Ethan. Ethan, when was the Declaration of Independence signed?
Signed?
Drum roll.
Yes.
I'm thinking 1774, right?
1774.
I'm thinking that's when it's signed, but we declared independence 1776.
Yeah, actually not. I think we were still fighting the redcoats. The answer is the Declaration of Independence wasn't signed on July 4th, 1776. It was signed on August 2nd, 1776.
So almost a month later.
It says most of the delegates
wrong.
signed August 2nd, but several signed even on a later date. The signed parchment copy now resides in the National Archive in the rotunda of the Charters of Freedom alongside the Constitution of the Bill of Rights. Now, here's the next question. Is there more than one copy of the Declaration of Independence?
More than one. Are you asking
Yes,
me?
I'm asking you.
More than one copy?
Yes.
Like,
Is there more than one original? Did they sign two?
no.
More than one copy exists.
Oh.
After the adoption of the Declaration of Independence, the Committee of Five, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston, who I've never heard of, were charged with overseeing the reproduction of the approved text. This was completed at a shop in Philadelphia printer, John Dunlap. And on July 5th, Dunlap's copies were dispatched across 13 colonies. So I guess it says 26 copies survive. 100 copies.
And those are signed copies?
Yes.
So they reproduced.
Well, this says these are rare documents. Notice the Dunlap broadsides. Looks like they're originals. Of the hundreds thought to have been printed on the night of July 4th, only 26 copies survive. Most are held in a museum and library collections, but 3 are privately owned.
So July 4th, they printed them, and then they signed it on August the 2nd. Okay.
Yeah. And here is the last of many questions, but I'll intermittently ask throughout our broadcast and show today. When they signed the Declaration of Independence and during that time between July 4th and August 2nd and a little time thereafter, was it just like, hey, high five, we signed it? Or was there discord in the United States? What do you think the climate was?
I would think Discord.
Yeah, I would think it. I would think it wouldn't. It wasn't like
a happy signing and just
it wasn't like
formality.
4th of July nowadays. I'm thinking it was
Because that was
much
like a
different.
declaration of war.
You are both correct.
Oh,
When
high
the
five,
news of the
Ethan.
Declaration of Independence reached New York City, it started a riot.
Yeah.
By July 9th, 1776, a copy of the Declaration of Independence had reached New York City with hundreds of British naval ships occupying New York Harbor. Revolutionary spirit and military tensions were running high.
Mhm.
George Washington, commander of the Continental Forces in New York, read the document aloud in front of City Hall. A raucous crowd cheered the inspiring words, and later that day tore down a nearby statue of George III. The statue was subsequently melted down and shaped into more than 42,000 musket balls for the fledgling American Army. Isn't that crazy?
Wow. That's neat.
Oh, and also, did anybody ever recant? Anybody that signed it, take it back? I don't like this sector. I don't want to be independent.
I bet they did.
They did. I didn't get a chance to answer. Richard Stockton.
It's okay. Some of these questions are making me feel unpatriotic because I'm getting them wrong. So.
No, you can pass them on to people like you read this all the time, and it just wasn't on today's show. Richard Stockton, a lawyer from Princeton, New Jersey.
Boo, Richard.
Princeton, little Ivy League guy, became the only signer of the Declaration of Independence to recant his support of the revolution. On November 30th, 1776, the hapless delegate was captured by the British and thrown in jail.
Captured by the British, but he was on their side.
I don't know. We're going to read more. After months of harsh treatment and meager rations, Stockton repudiated his signature on the Declaration of Independence and swore his allegiance to King George III. A broken man, when he regained his freedom, he took a new oath of loyalty to the state of New Jersey in December of 1777. That is crazy. What happened to waterboarding and still sticking up for your nation? You know?
Toni, do you think they waterboarded back then?
They should have this guy.
No
kidding. It's like they need to test your patriotism or whatever. You should be able to withstand waterboarding because we had already beat the redcoats.
Well, remember what Patrick Henry said? I only have one asterisk for my country.
Let's see that. It also says, what is the age difference between the youngest and the oldest signers of the Declaration of Independence? And who were they? Have any idea?
Oh, that's so hard. How could he possibly?
Okay, just give me your age range.
Oh, gosh. 95 to 27. 27 to 95.
That's pretty broad. I don't think we had any. Did we? I guess we could have had some 95-year-olds. There was a 44-year age difference between the youngest and the oldest. The oldest signer was Benjamin Franklin at 70.
That's what I thought. But I thought he was older than that.
And the youngest was somebody I've never heard of, Edward Rutledge, a lawyer. They're all lawyers.
All those guys were lawyers.
From South Carolina, who was only 26 at the time.
Oh, wow.
Rutledge narrowly beat out fellow South Carolinian Thomas Lynch Jr., just 4 months his senior, for the title. All right. I'm sure that y'all are really bored with all of this.
Well, it sure is interesting, and we're excited about 4th of July. But today, Toni, we are going to be talking about guardianship.
Wait, one more question.
All right, speed it up.
What is written on the back of this is for Ethan. What is written on the back of the Declaration of Independence?
An invisible map that leads to a national treasure.
We saw that movie. I'm sure he's right.
Your
Toni.
final answer
He's got to be right.
Yes, that is my final answer.
Invisible map.
Only answer.
Okay.
Invisible map.
In the movie National Treasure, Nicolas Cage character claims that the back of the Declaration contains a treasure map with encrypted instructions with the founding fathers written in invisible ink. Unfortunately, this is not the case. There is, however,
have they tested it? Do they actually?
Are you sure?
Are you sure?
Maybe we'll at the end of this text we'll find out. There is, however, a simpler message written upside down across the bottom of the signed document, and it's quote: "Original Declaration of Independence, dated July 4th, 1776. No one knows who exactly wrote this or when. During the Revolutionary War years, the parchment was frequently rolled up and transport. It's thought that the text was added as a label."
Oh, that's neat.
Okay, no more. I won't But y'all were.
He was.
You watched National Treasure.
He sure did, and remembered. I saw it, but I wouldn't remember that.
July 4th, though. Big day. Big day tomorrow.
It sure is. We're looking forward to it. Do you have any plans for July 4th?
We were at Home Depot on Saturday. That, of course, everybody knows us by first name. They know everything. We know everything about them. They know everything about us and what we're building and what we're doing and all that stuff. And so we were there on Saturday, and they had a little hot dog stand. And Jim was just like, I gotta have a hot dog. I gotta have a hot dog. And I'm like, and I said, okay, fine. You can slow down. You can get out and get it because we were both being lazy. And he's like, no. So I went to HEB and I got all the hot dog stuff. I got, the hot dog buns and the watermelon
and the relish.
And I used to make it, but now I don't make that stuff anymore. I buy HEB is way better cook than I am. So,
already made?
Yes, everything's already made.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
we're having hot dogs too. My daughter is a hot dog fan. Well, we all are. Who's not a hot dog fan?
Foot long ones. I mean, actually, the meat was actually a foot long. So I'm thinking I'm going to go back and get some of those.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we're doing tomorrow too. We're having a bunch of people over. But what we're going to be talking about this episode is guardianship. We're about to go to break, but I want you to know, Toni and I want you to know that if you have questions about guardianship, you can email us your questions at legalconnectionshow.com. You can also go to our Facebook page and we take live questions. www.facebook.com/legalconnectionshow/ and you can ask us your questions there. When we come back after the break, we're going to start talking about guardianship, what it is, when it applies, and how to get it done. So
a very important topic, guardianship right now, because when anybody, young or old, becomes incapacitated mentally or physically, a guardianship should be something they should consider.
Absolutely. So we will be right back after the break.
Hispanic Chamber Connections with Dr. Carlos Sanchez, president of the Woodlands Conroe Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, featuring event announcements, member highlights, and more. Tuesdays at 1 p.m., broadcasting from the heart of Conroe, Texas on irlonestar.com and Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1.
Want to check out the fastest growing sport in the world? It's right here in Conroe, Texas, and it's roller derby. Conroe Roller Derby is a nonprofit recreational league of women and men who want you to come and check out the fast-paced, hard-hitting game of roller derby. The Conroe Cutthroats practice at Rainbow Roller Rink on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. You can find our game schedule and more information on our website, www.conroerollerderby.com.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your questions. Get seen on TV, YouTube, and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Support your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back to the Legal Connection Show with Toni and Cheryl. I want to tell you happy 4th of July. And today we are talking about guardianship. So, Toni, before we went to the break, you said that guardianship was important and appropriate in a lot of cases. And
I just wanted to say while we were in the break, you gave me a compliment.
Oh, yeah. Toni looks like a red, white, and blue Elvira. She does. If you can see us,
I have clothes on
Facebook, but she does. She with an Uncle Sam jacket.
But for Jim later, maybe not.
Oh Lord. Okay, TMI. So
guardian.
Yes.
Can I give the definition of a guardian?
Please
I think
do.
You have it, but the Black's Law Dictionary, just so people know it, is one who has the legal authority and duty to care for another's person or property, especially because of the other's incapacity or disability. A guardian may be appointed either for all purposes or for specific purposes. Now, I want to make the distinction that, and we want to get into some cases that we're handling. a court can appoint a guardian. You can also apply to get a guardianship, but a guardian ad litem is very different from a guardian. And you can hear that all the time in courts. You'll get an attorney ad litem or a guardian ad litem. And a guardian ad litem is a guardian, usually an attorney, appointed by the court to appear in a lawsuit on behalf of an incompetent person or a minor defendant. So a guardian ad litem is somebody that represents somebody. In other words, an attorney that's going to step in the seat of the person that can't represent themselves, because that would be a violation of due process, talking about our Constitution and Declaration of Independence and all those other wonderful
and you have
things.
To have capacity.
If you don't have capacity in a lawsuit, whether it be because you are highly intelligent but a minor that has not been emancipated, or because it's deemed that you're like a lot of times people they're insane, if they're on drugs or for whatever the case may be. Now that doesn't mean if they're physically incapacitated they need a guardian ad litem.
Right.
I believe that, I think it's called a guardian ad litem. It's when when a person is not available and you have to serve them to make sure that, to bring them into a lawsuit. Somebody's hiding from their process server, in other words.
Right.
Or maybe that they just don't know where they're located. It happens a lot with the land deals where you have adverse possession and you're trying to take over land. They will, you'll sue the entity that you're trying to bring into the suit. And then the court will appoint a guardian, or I think it's an attorney ad litem, not a guardian ad litem, an attorney ad litem to, it might be a guardian. Anyway, the court appoints a person as an ad litem to stand in the seat of the person that has not been served, so that you can go forward with the case. Otherwise, a lot of things
like an oil and gas law and all of that, when they're suing for ownership and the mineral interest.
I can't remember whether it was an attorney or a guardian ad litem. It seems like they're interchangeable.
Well, this is a question we had from one of our listeners. What's the difference between a guardian and a conservator?
Actually, a big difference. A guardian ad litem is just that. They are only temporarily appointed by the court, whereas a conservator is, and I can look up the definition too.
Yeah,
which might be a lot easier. But conservator is somebody that's been appointed and they've been adjudicated to represent. But let me look that up. That's a good question, because it depends on the context. And when I hear a conservator of a state, it automatically think of probate, but that's going to be the administrator.
Well,
so
it makes me think of child divorce and proceedings and child custody and all of that.
I'm looking up conservator right now because, it's funny. In the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure, there's even a rule, and I think it's Rule 45, that allows you can name a pleading anything you want. The content is what is really important. So if the words that you use to identify somebody are used a different way, but it's clear by the order or the definition in the pleading what they are, then that's what they are. So I think a lot of the words are kind of interchangeable. But let's look at conservator. I love my Black's Law Dictionary. I've had this since law school, so it's like 20 years old, and I use it, as you can see, a lot. I don't think the words have changed, and fortunately we have computers now because I am really slow. Good grief. There's conscience. Hang on, hold up. Consent. Conservator.
Okay.
Finally, a guardian, protector, or preserver. So it is interchangeable. Okay. A person appointed by the court to manage the estate or affairs of another who is legally incapable of doing so. So it is the conservator. And I should know that because I've done a couple of these guardianships and always forget. I just say they're the guardian, but they are the guardian. And I'll jump in real quick before we get into it so people have an idea. I did a guardianship for a case about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And it was for a client who was young. He was about, I want to say maybe about 25. And he had been doing for a period of time synthetic drugs. And he had done that because he was on probation. He was on a deferred adjudication probation, meaning that if he complied with the terms of his deferred adjudication, it would be dismissed after a certain period of time. And I think his might have been 4 years. And what happened was he got in with the wrong group of kids. His parents were wonderful, loved his parents, very, very good people. But kids do what they're going to do, even young 20-ish kids. And so he got involved with the wrong group, and he got a job. I can't can't remember where he got the job at, but wherever it was, he started doing, to pass the drug test, he was doing synthetic pot.
And that doesn't show up on drug tests.
It does now. They test for everything now. But at the time, people are very creative. If they want to do drugs, they're going to try, they might eat that sheetrock off the wall if they think it's going to give them a high.
Mm-hmm.
And it's insane because why would you do that to your body? But they need this high. Like they couldn't be happy enough just going to the church, which is my high. If I didn't go to mass, I don't know what I'd do. I'd be just to be an insane person. I just love going to mass so much. But that's my high. People go to mass instead of doing drugs. But anyway, so he was doing these synthetic drugs. He was going, the police were after him for, I don't remember why, but he told them when they stopped him that he had a chip in his head and that he was communicating with Obama through a NASA chip.
Oh,
and this is literally on the tape that he told the police. He was going 120 miles an hour down I-10 going west at noon on a Wednesday.
Oh, good.
So he was in danger. And he had 5 different sets of law enforcement after him. All the different counties, all the city, they were just following him. It was like and this was my client, and his mom was very, very nice, very professional. You would never have guessed this was going to happen. And when they pulled him over, they, his guns were drawn, and it could have been really, really serious. But instead, he was almost childlike in the video. All he had in the car was comic books, and he said Obama was telling him to escape the conspiracy of the people following him, and so he seriously believed that this was a conspiracy against him in the United States, and Russia was out to get him. Russia, not China or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so the courts did not believe that he was ill. They thought he was making it up, and so they were ready to throw him in jail, like bad jail. And so they hired me. I substituted in for the other attorney. I looked at the facts. I understood that there was some mental illness here. And we went and applied for a guardianship for him.
Mm-hmm.
And what that did was it gave him the help that he needed.
Mm-hmm.
It gave his mother, who became his guardian, the ability to control his, taking the keys away from him, locking them because he had a driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
And she was able to put him in a sort of, I don't want to say a home, but a place where he could stay, where he was watched 24/7.
Wow.
Until his brain's unfried, he was a danger to himself and other people.
Mm-hmm.
And sweetest kid ever. I mean, talking with him, very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
You would never have known that this kid was not making this up but he wasn't. He was seriously mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the guardianship, what we did was we went to the probate court. We had, we requested a guardianship. We explained the terms and the facts.
Mm-hmm.
All his family agreed. It went really smooth. There wasn't a hearing or anything. It was like, we basically approached the judge because there was an agreement, because he had a psychiatrist, a doctor,
mm-hmm.
that actually did a test on him
mm-hmm.
To show that he was impaired. We got that done, and then we were able just to get this guardianship and then show the court that he wasn't making this up. But if you were to talk to him, you would think he was making it up. You would think he was just making this up so he wouldn't go to jail.
Why? He just kind of came across insincere?
He came across too intelligent to have been mentally ill. But all of a sudden he would just tell you, you'd be talking like I'm talking to you right now. He would just be talking to you about, he knew everything. And all of a sudden though, it would say, well, Obama, he would talk about maybe there was some kind of conspiracy. I mean, he had me convinced that Obama was communicating with him and that I needed to talk to NASA. I mean, that's how convincing he was.
Wow.
There was no way Obama was talking to this kid.
No.
But, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are, space people out there. But for right now, he's got a guardian. And that's the kind of thing we needed that for.
Right. Okay. And so, for our listeners, if you're dealing with a guardianship issue, if you know someone that's dealing with a guardianship issue or has questions, has someone that they feel like a proposed ward, someone that needs a guardian, Toni and I do guardianship. We're here to answer your questions. And we want you to reach out to us. You can send us your questions at questions@legalconnectionshow.com, or you can call us at 281-529-5862. We're about to go to break, but before we do, I want to tell our listeners that if you do have a guardianship issue, you need to find an attorney that is certified to take guardianship cases. And certification is a relatively easy matter for an attorney. They just have to go to a class, an all-day class type thing.
Oh, but
get their certification.
You're under, I guess, mining how much you learn at that class.
Absolutely.
And it's a specialty that you really need to know. And you must be certified by the law,
state bar,
by statute, to be able to handle these cases. So
Yeah, you're right. I kind of downplayed that. It's very complex. And guardianship cases, I mean, I don't know. They're involved. There's a lot of paperwork.
The one I just described would have been, or it was smooth sailing because this kid did not want to go to prison, and he was going to prison.
Yeah.
Because of all the things he had done. And it was the contributor factors for him taking the drugs that he should have known, but they don't give you that break in the law. He shouldn't have done it. There's a lot of cases where the people don't want a guardianship, or there's an argument about who will be the guardian. And so we'll talk about that when we get back.
And in your case that you were talking about, are both his mom and dad guardian or just his mom?
We had to get the approval of, because he was an adult, of his next of kin, which were parents and also psychiatrists. We had to jump through a lot of hoops, but everyone was in agreement. That's why it was such smooth sailing.
Right.
Because you had to make sure that you properly served them, and if you had any dispute or conflict, that steps in and it makes it more expensive. And you run once the court gets involved and they start making decisions, you run your legal cost way up.
Absolutely.
And you also are preventing the person that needs the guardian from getting the guardianship sooner. So
yeah, so true. Okay, we're going to go to break. We will be right back. The Legal Connection Show with Toni and Cheryl, Legal Talk Radio. We'll be right back after the break.
We have the safest food supply in the world. Strict laws and regulations restrict the usage of hormones, antibiotics, and pesticides within our food supply. Production agriculture practices and technologies such as the use of GMOs, which is not any more or less risky than conventional crop production, has allowed American farmers to produce more food on less acres in environmentally sound ways. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make lives better.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1 and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Welcome back to the Legal Connection with Toni and Cheryl. Today we are talking about guardianship. And before the break, we talked about that you need to get a certified attorney to represent you in a guardianship case. Certification is required, and they have to take a course, and it is involved. The attorney does. So once you find an attorney that is certified, there's some avenues. One of the questions that we had was, what do you do if you need a guardianship attorney and you can't afford one? And you can find an attorney. Maybe you could try a volunteer lawyer, Houston Volunteer Lawyers. I think Lone Star Legal Aid is another one that will help you. And
but you can also get your costs paid for, and this goes with a lot of different cases. And because I'm handling one where this was one of these people that stays in your property that won't leave because they're professional tenants who know how to get around paying rent. But what the law provides this, and you can get an applicant. It's called, basically it's a pauper's affidavit.
Right.
If you apply for it, then and this was actually on our list of things. I've not had anybody actually that I've worked with fill out a pauper's affidavit, but if the applicant cannot afford to pay the court costs based on income and asset information, the applicant provided during intake, the volunteer attorney. This is if you go to a volunteer attorney, but in one way or the other, you still apply, and you can fill out this. The applicant, it's called a statement of inability to afford payment of court costs, and it's also for an appeal bond. And they have these forms online in most of the courts. They have it in. Yeah, I haven't actually looked, to tell you the truth, in the Montgomery County County Clerk's office. But if you Google it, you can usually find it, and the same form with the proper information can be applied. Fill out your information, apply your facts, file it with the court where you'll be filing your petition for an application for a guardianship, and then the judge will review it, just like they do in criminal cases, to determine if you legitimately don't have the money. If you have assets that you could sell, then they're not going to let you do it. If you have a job that pays, remotely well, even not above minimum wage, then you're probably not going to qualify. And they will check into it. You can't lie on these.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really need a guardianship, and a lot of people do,
Right.
and you don't have the money,
Right.
then this is the way to go. You want to fill out one of these paupers affidavit. It's called an affidavit of insufficiency. It's called the statement of inability to afford payment of court costs. There's also a form called the affidavit of insufficiency of the estates, which should be filed by the applicant. If the applicant does not have, so the applicant doesn't have to pay the ad litem, but that's just another thing when you're going to the legal aid.
Well, the ad litem, there is an ad litem that's appointed in guardianship cases. And, there's a modern thing going on that I think there was a case, it was called Jenny's case. And it was a Down syndrome girl who had a job. She had a little apartment above where she worked. And she wanted to be independent. And her parents wanted to be her guardian. And Jenny did not want her parents to be her guardian.
No, people do not want people, when they become adults, they do not want somebody telling them what to do longer.
Well, as a guardian, you in a guardianship cases, you are taking away all that wards or proposed ward. A proposed ward is the incapacitated
and look at it on
person.
the flip side, the person that's now become a guardian is responsible for where just like a kid.
Right, but you're taking away all of their rights,
Right.
all of their legal rights.
Mm-hmm. Well, unless the guardianship's limited to just financial and not physical.
Well, right, but we're talking about someone who's incapacitated.
Right. Mm-hmm. Like my guy, like my client.
Exactly, or the case that I have. I mean, she's got the mentality of a 3-year-old, and she's going to be 18.
And they do not want to give up those rights once they're an adult.
And the court wants to know that now. I want the listeners to know that the court wants to know that every avenue has been searched out before taking away that person's rights. And and also, Toni, the courts are just swamped with these guardianship cases too. And so a lot of these avenues that
if you go through the right procedure, though, it moves pretty fast.
But the courts are swamped. So what they want to do is something else. Now they trying to come up with contracts that the proposed ward signs and the guardian signs, that the guardian can be in their doctor's appointments and stuff like that without having to go through the court system because they're swamped. Yeah. But we need to get to the physician's certificate. I think that's a crucial part. So in this case that you were talking about that you had, you had to go to a doctor who would verify, perform tests.
I went to a psychiatrist, and he was also a PhD. I didn't want to, because my clients have the money to be able to get the best. And we really did want to know. I wanted to know through all the different tests that were done, is he intermittently crazy? Was he on drugs when he was talking to me? I mean, I didn't know. So we needed a professional that could identify whether he was a really good actor or he really had some serious problems. And as it turned out, he had some serious problems. It wasn't, again, you're talking to somebody like I'm talking to you, and they're coming across as sane as I'll get out. And you think they're teasing with you,
right?
Or they're just manipulating you. Right. Some people are just crazy, and that kind of scares me.
Yeah, it is scary.
I'm telling you, when I talk to this person, I've met a lot of different people on my line of work, criminals, civil, the whole bit. And, I'm from Louisiana, my family, the whole bit. I would have thought that he was making it up, and he just wasn't. And his mother was, he still texts me from the home that he's at, that he's taking care of.
Still at a home.
And he's like, Miss Toni, when can I get my comic books? And I want to get a job. But then he'll turn right around and say, well, I want to, he'll be like, very lucid. I need to get a job. I've done this. But he can't, because he can't be trusted not to go take the keys and go crazy and go down the freeway.
But in the guardianship application, or the one that you were successful in filing, his mom was the guardian. You got a physician's certificate.
I chose my own. A lot of times the court will appoint one for you. And I'm totally against that, because I think that that's your choice. If you're in the criminal courts, particularly, they want to see if, they do the mental evaluations, because they don't think you're crazy either. Or maybe they're doing it, which I take that back. They usually are. They're just so swamped, and they don't know who's lying and who's not.
Right.
They have to do mental evaluations to determine if somebody should be in the drug court, or if they've got some serious mental problems, or if they're making it up because they're trying to get off. And so the criminal courts will appoint, or you'll go do the mental mental, I want to say mental health evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that they're very cynical because they have so many people that pretend
Mm-hmm.
that they're mentally ill,
Right.
because they're really just drug addicts, and they want
Mhm.
to be on probation, and they want a lighter sentence or whatever the case may be. And so the problem is them being so cynical that they overlook somebody that really needs help. And
That's
why you
risk.
want your own completely credentialed physician if you can get that and afford that
Mm-hmm.
to do your own.
And then they fill out a determination of mental retardation is one, or it's physician certificate.
That's the one they have in the courts, and they recognize it. Courts like to see the same. They don't want to get something that's not in the form that they're accustomed to looking at, like a pleading.
Right.
And so this one's actually a fill in the blank form that's on most county websites that the
You
doctor
take it
fills
to
out.
a doctor.
You take it to a site, and a regular physician can do it.
Mhm.
But in my case, I wanted a psychiatrist to do it, somebody that
Mhm.
had more education. I didn't want it to be kicked out by a particular judge because they would say it was not qualified. And that another tiny short story. I had a case I was doing, and I had the most credentialed expert you could imagine. It was for a juvenile case, a young child, like a
Mhm.
5 or 6 year old, and he had gone through all of this stuff, and he was my expert. And the opposing side did not want this guy in, and they actually got him kicked out because he had not. In other words, it's a gatekeeping statute, and they took him on voir dire. It was a long hearing, and I wasn't able to use him except for as an offer of proof outside the jury because they said that he hadn't updated a form and paid.
Oh, good night.
It was like a completely ridiculous reason for my person not to be able to come into court and testify. So that's why if you have any question that there might be a contest
Just
as to the
make sure you
guardianship,
have someone.
make sure the person you get is credentialed.
And I think it's important to know that the medical examination has to be done within 120 days of the date of filing the
or
application.
you have to update it.
In other words, it needs to be current. You can't have some old letter from a doctor saying,
which a lot of people want to use because
Mhm.
somebody may have been going through a bad time, and they're like, oh, look, this person's crazy. So we're going to apply against their will. They're applying for a guardianship against their will with this piece of paper. And it may have been, years and years ago when they were going through a bad time or
Right.
something. That's why they update
it's
it.
got to be
Right.
current.
Or it will be
And-
kicked out.
Yeah.
The judge won't look at it.
And then the application is filed, and the application today has tab language about other alternative supports and services.
It's a full-blown
tried.
petition.
Right. A full-blown original petition. And then an ad litem motion
Mhm.
is submitted to the court, which means that an ad litem attorney who represents the proposed ward
Yes.
is going to be appointed.
Yes. And when it's agreed that there's going to be an agreed guardianship, that then you're really good friends with the ad litem. And if it's almost like you're one of your child custody divorce cases, the ad litem has got a lot of sway. But on an agreed one,
Yeah.
application for guardianship, they really are just kind of chit-chatting with the family. It's just,
Right.
it's a very happy thing, like an adoption.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think there's ad litems for adoptions too, to make sure they're checking everything out,
Mm-hmm.
which they do. But when it's not agreed is when it gets kind of sticky because somebody wants a different guardian. And this happens when there's a lot of money involved. When somebody like say Hugh Hefner, they don't have, their attorneys haven't set it up for them in advance. The heirs are maybe not they may not have good moral
Character.
fortitude and character, and they're doing everything within their power to find this older person to be incompetent.
Like
so that,
Hugh Hefner, for example.
yeah,
It
this
just
happens a
didn't
lot.
happen to him, but
And
so
so
his heirs would be trying to declare him incompetent,
That-
incapacitated,
yes,
so they could take over his estate.
that is why you have these medical certifications, and you have and just like we talked about in some other shows about estates, that you have a certification by a doctor with witnesses to show that this was not a scam,
Mm-hmm.
so that it can be done properly. Otherwise, your rights get taken away from you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we're in the middle of talking about guardianship, but we're going to go to a quick break, and we will be right back. The Legal Connection with Toni and Cheryl.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show. With monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Does volunteering at a nonprofit horse sanctuary sound wonderful? Or are you a veteran or a veteran spouse and think trying a peer group session through a local Horses and Heroes equine program might be worth trying? Henry's Home Horse and Human Sanctuary, located in Grand Central Park by appointment only, is home to a growing number of rescued and donated horses. Visit our website at henryshomehorsesanctuary.org or check out our Facebook at Henry's Home Horse and Human Sanctuary for more information.
Hey guys, this is Connor.
This is Dick.
This is Chris.
And we're with the Ticket Stub Podcast every Thursday live at noon on 104.5 and 106.1 FM in the Conroe area. Also, anytime at irlonestar.com. You go to irlonestar.com/TTS. You can find all of our social media.
And don't forget, we give away 2 tickets to the Grand Theater on every show.
If you like movies and you like complaining or celebrating anything that has to do with the silver screen, check out the Ticket Stub Podcast and join us every Thursday at noon o'clock on Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back to the Legal Connection with Toni and Cheryl. We are here today, Toni and I. We're talking about guardianship, and it's complicated, isn't it, Toni?
Well, it's complicated, but every time I've done a guardianship, and I've done quite a few, and it's not something I remember without going to the checklist because it becomes rote. It's just like you got to do it. You don't want to forget anything, so you always go back to, or at least I have, not a form or to take my certification class or anything like that. I literally go to the county where I'm getting the guardianship, and I'll look at their website because they usually have a how-to, and the Texas State Bar has it too. I love the Texas State Bar's website because they've got a checklist for what you have to go get done. And of course, you have to get background checks, and you've got to take, I think we'll go over each one of those, the guardianship class for the guardian. But 2 things came to mind. One is that a good thing to think about when you think about a guardian is parents are guardians, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all this is what's changed. The only thing that you don't have to get a guardianship application as a parent, although a lot of people should, I think, when they have kids. But in order, when someone's emancipated, when by law you're not responsible for them, you have to get a guardianship. And it's really just the same. Once you're the guardian, it's like you're their parent.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
if they do something crazy, like get the keys and drive down I-10 120 miles an hour thinking, spaceships are after you, then that guardian knows they need to get a key box for the keys.
Right.
Because they're going to be held accountable for any damages or injury that are caused by their ward because they knew better.
Exactly. There's a responsibility, a moral responsibility. Well, as far as the actual process of doing it, we took our listeners up to an attorney ad litem is appointed that represents the interests of the
and that can be paid
ward.
for if you fill out one of the little forms to see if it's proper.
Because
again, if people really need a guardian, you don't want money to be what's holding you back.
Exactly. Because there's a whole litany of problems if someone needs a guardian and they don't have
and
it.
The courts are very liberal with that, but they're not going to let you lie. They're going to check it out. So you don't lie on your application to get a freebie.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the attorney needs to provide notice to all parties that require notice.
Very, very important. If you don't get that notice out and you don't get it sent properly to the right people through a certification, I believe it needs to be through a process server for certain individuals like the parents or and I can't remember right off. You'd have to look at the law.
It's proposed ward and the proposed ward. The proposed ward actually has to get notice.
Right.
And regardless of their capacity, what level they're at, that notice has to be put in their hands.
Right.
They can't even have someone else be served for them. They've got to be personally served.
And it has to be the parents and I think the siblings, but I can't remember the exact ones yet. But I remember one of my guardianships.
Ward and proposed ward's parents.
Oh, just the parents. The sister in one of my cases, because she wasn't served by a process server, that held mine up. I had to refile. I had to get an update on my physician certificate because it was getting past 120 days.
Really?
Because it got kicked back because of the service.
Oh my goodness!
And it was like a real technical. So you have to follow it. Pretty much.
You have to go to the estates code. Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, the different county clerk's offices, they will help you. They're very nice.
Yeah, they're so
they've
nice.
all listed out for what you need to do. And if something happens, you can always correct it and go forward. I think we also had you have to go through the criminal the criminal record search, which kind of surprised me.
Yeah,
but
that's next. You have a criminal record search for all the applicants.
Mm-hmm. And they'll tell you how to do that if you haven't done that before. I think we're looking at a form that was from a recent certification, and you can go online to get these things done. But just to follow, if you don't hire an attorney, I mean, to get through this quagmire, you almost want to hire an attorney.
And how much would an attorney cost to do a guardianship
Well, I know that what
case?
I've charged before, and again, I'm just like, and my husband will vouch for this. I'm just like Miss Pro Bono America.
Yeah, I
the
know you
beautiful,
are. I vouch
which is really
for that.
bad because I feel
She's
people don't have the
Miss
money.
4th of July Elvira Pro Bono.
Well, it's because you serve God by serving others, and if somebody really can't afford and they really need help, I'm going to help them.
Right.
You know, if it's
exactly
not a hardship to me.
But I'm thinking, what, $3,500 to?
If it's not if there's not a conflict or contested, $3,500 is about right, because you have to look at how many man hours the attorney's putting into it and filing and the service and the
And there's a
process servers
lot, right?
to make sure it's done right and runs smoothly. And you have to get with the ad litem. You've got to appear before the court. You've got to explain all of this to your client, who is generally going to be the person that needs the guardian. And you've got to explain everything to the guardian themselves.
The
and
attorney
family.
ad litem that's their client, the person that needs the guardian, but the attorney's client would be the applicant. So the guardian themselves.
Right. The attorney ad litem is going to be the one that's appointed by the court that comes and checks everything out.
Right.
To make sure that the place is good.
And then the applicant will have to take a guardianship class. And, that's as of June 1st, the applicant has to take a guardianship class.
Now, I've never, since I have not done one, that my applicants never needed to. And, we're using the term sort of not loosely here, probably the proper legal terms. But when you're doing a guardianship, there's a mishmash of who all these people are. On the ones that are not contested, you're talking with the mom or the parent,
right,
or the person that's going to be the guardian. And the other person's always there with you. You don't want to hide it from them unless they're like flat out crazy and you don't want to scare them. So you have to kind of play it by ear. But there's a lot of communication going on in these guardianship applications. It's not just, quick, let's just do this, file the paperwork and get it done. You've got to make
definitely
sure
a
everybody
process.
understands their responsibility and what's going on.
Right.
And
then that goes with visiting the family, the ad litem. The attorney ad litem that's representing the proposed ward goes out and visits the family, but also as the attorney for the applicant, you go out and visit the family, and then there's a hearing. So you prepare for the hearing and you go to the hearing, and everyone comes to the hearing.
And I will add this too, that there's other members of the family who are not in agreement with who's going to be the guardian, and there's a contest or a conflict. A lot of times they aren't on notice or don't have to be on notice when the hearings are, and so you just got to really be careful about what you say as an attorney and how you're going forward with it and who the guardian is. And we're talking about family. And we all know 4th of July is coming up. Family members get crazy when they're all, when they don't all agree with, on who they voted for president, just like the Roseanne thing. Family members are very passionate, and a lot of times they don't agree on everything. And when you're dealing with a guardianship, it's particularly when there's a lot of money involved or when there's not a lot of money involved, whatever the case may be. When there's a conflict and there's a lot of different family members that have a difference of opinion, you got to be real, real careful as the attorney or as the person that's becoming the guardian, because you're walking on thin ice.
A good attorney can have such a positive impact, and then a bad attorney can make a big mess.
So the key here is listening to everybody.
Okay.
And giving everybody the respect that they're due, regardless of their opinion, and hearing everybody out, and then taking it all in. Because ultimately, the attorney ad litem or the ad litem appointed by the court will be the one that makes the suggestion if there's a conflict to the judge, and the judge will almost always go with the ad litem.
The ad litem suggests. Okay, well, so that's awesome information. There's a hearing. Everyone shows up to it,
yes.
And basically, if it's friendly, then
it's just a little dance.
Yeah, it's just a little thing. These things can get pretty ugly, like you said, when families start fighting.
You have to put people on the stand. Well, if there's a complete disconnect on who should be the guardian, or once guardianship's even necessary, you're going to have a full blown trial. You're going to have witnesses, maybe the person the ward, the one that, because they're going to evidence to the judge, I'm not crazy.
Right.
But then you'll have their doctor. I'm saying, well, yeah, they are. They're just, so it could go to a full blown hearing. But on the few that I've done, it's been friendly. Again, it's a huge right. All these rights are being taken away from me if you get a guardian.
Right.
Now, that being said, you can have a guardian that's only for the purpose of financial matters or
That's
only for the
right.
purpose of physical matters.
And that's one of the questions from our audience. What types of are there different types of guardians? And there are.
Right.
There are. We've only got 2 more minutes, but I want to wrap this up. After the hearing, the guardian has to be made aware, guys. If you're listening and you're thinking about becoming the guardian of your child that's about to turn 18 or maybe your aging parent, there are annual reporting duties.
Yes.
And you will be advised
Very
as to
important.
those. But I want to give this website to anyone who needs more information. It's access.tarrantcounty.com. And you look for the ad litem manual. It's Judge King's ad litem manual. It's a resource that's used by attorneys all over the state. Well, probably all over the country. And that will help you. So, but as I've told you before, Toni and I are here too.
Now, I want to add one thing. You can terminate a guardianship if it's determined through these annual or before, whenever it's necessary. You can terminate a guardianship if it's determined that the ward no longer needs a guardian.
And that's determined
but
in
you
the
have
same
to go
way.
through the court.
Yeah.
You go through the court. It's a
Okay.
judicial proceeding.
All right. So it is endable. It's not forever.
Right. But becoming a guardian is a legal process, and you're now by law you're responsible for this person. To undo that is also a legal process, like a divorce.
Very good. Well, thank you, Toni. Well, Toni and I have been here today talking about guardianship. You can download this tomorrow and listen to us on Google Play or iTunes. You listen to our podcast, and also you can check us out on YouTube. I think we're on YouTube and
YouTube, Facebook. We have our website. We're just all over the place.
We sure are. Check out our website at legalconnectionshow.com. You can send us questions at legalconnectionshow.com. And remember, we're here every Tuesday from 12 to 1 p.m. on 104.5 or 106.1. So we will see you next week and
serve God by serving others.
That's right. Have a great week, guys.
I wake up in the morning and put on my clothes.